man, is the subject of this video not totally ripe for one of those thumbnails? It's like, crazy, man. I haven't done it yet, so we'll see what I come up with. But hey, real quick before I forget, a couple people messaged me on Facebook saying some really nice stuff like, hey man, love your channel, love what you do. But the thing that was common with all of them was, I can't believe you're not bigger than you are, which is an extremely nice thing to hear. But I mean, really all things considered, for a channel that's only like a year and a half old or something, and whatever I got, like 1,100 subscribers or something, that's kind of big in my world. I don't know. Like, considering the fact that metal stuff's not really getting the push or backing by mainstream channels like Levers of Power context, media related. But the fact that I've never paid for any sort of marketing and I don't advertise anywhere, I'd say for just, for just some small time asshole like me, that's pretty big. So thank you for enjoying what I contribute. And one more thing on that note, if you go to the description of this channel, it says bullshitting about heavy metal, because that's all it is. I'm getting closer every day to moving to what I call phase 2, which I hope to implement in the next few months, but it's always only going to be the same thing, whether it's just me interviewing bands in person. Oh, I'm actually interviewing Tier this week at their show, thanks to James from the Friendly Men for putting that one together. But it's always only going to be just that. It's bullshitting about heavy metal, period. Alright, back to the main subject. Recently I saw one of those nostalgia page things on Facebook where it played a video and it was a pit from some show in 2006. And judging by the way people were dressed, I guess the band playing was one of those like emo metal or metalcore type things. But the people in the pit were all doing those sorts of really violent looking dance moves and stuff. All pretty coordinated, but nonetheless, even though all the kids were these wiry bag of bones and skinny and stuff, I wouldn't want to walk through it. But the fact that it was 2006 said yes, at that point, or at this point rather, it's considered nostalgic. So why would something like that be considered old school at this point? The only reason I can think of is because something changed and maybe you don't see that sort of behavior at shows anymore. So I thought about that. I thought about the last bunch of shows I've been to and if I witnessed anything like that. Partially the answer is yes, people still pit, people still mosh. However, big however, the other half of my answer is not really. Okay, the last bunch of shows I've been to were Crowbar, Danzig, Merciful Fate, Obituary, Pantera, Anthrax, and a festival headlined by Anthrax, but also featuring Hatebreed, Terror, Municipal Waste, Crowbar, and a bunch of others. Now, despite the fact that almost all of those are considered legacy, which means that the band members themselves, plus the audiences are older to the point where in some cases it's parents bringing their kids. Despite all that though, there was still moshing and pitting. Danzig, it was just a whole lot of cramming and people trying to get up front, so it was just hard to keep balance, and Merciful Fate was like that too. But Crowbar had moshing, Obituary had moshing, so did Anthrax. And Pantera, that's no mystery. You want to talk about older people being there with their kids, no question. And truthfully, I couldn't tell if there was really a whole lot of moshing going on because I was in a mezzanine section and it was hard to see the floor from where I was. But the one band that really made me realize, like, holy shit, this pit is not like it used to be, was Hatebreed. In 2024, I think it's pretty established that metal crowds and hardcore crowds are vastly different. Hardcore always brought the mosh, the dances and stuff, and metal just had like pits, like people running around, people pushing each other and going wild. But I noticed that Hatebreed still had a lot of kids in its pit, and not as many older people as you might imagine, because again, with that band having just announced 30th anniversary dates, they're getting up there in terms of longevity. But still, the moshing for Hatebreed just wasn't the same as it was in the very early 2000s, which is weird because you'd think it's like, hey, kids, youth, energy, but I'm telling you, man, it was a different sort of vibe. Dare I say people seemed nicer? I can remember specifically at that show, it was an outdoor festival in Worcester, hearing Scott from Terror do the whole, if you see somebody fall, pick them up, and everybody seemed cool with that message. Now compare that to early 2003, same venue but inside. It was Reach the Sky's last show. I can't remember the bill exactly, but it was actually another show I went to with Adam 22. But American Nightmare dropped off at the last minute, and Terror, who was brand new at that point, flew flew across the country to play their first East Coast show. But the singer of the band, The Promise, said something along the lines of, "To all you bigger guys out there, you be sure to police the pit, and if you see anybody fall, help them back up." And I'm telling you, man, I saw multiple people's facial expressions around me being like, "What?" Like, basically as if to say, fuck that. So let's just say kindness wasn't exactly a very popular quality back then. Now, though, it kind of seems like it is. Why that is, I don't know. It could be a societal thing or something external that I'm not exactly up on, but that's what the reality seems to be. Back to the 2006 video for a second. Even if the music that was being played is totally out of style these days, and you know, if the crowd, you know what I'm talking about, those emo types, despite all that, listen man, it still looked like a violent scene, alright? I'll fucking die on that hill. However, go back just 5 short years from that point to 2001. Go back to bands like Hatebreed, 100 Demons, Diecast. I saw them all in 2001. Instead of their pit crowds being wiry kids, it was just like these big fucking guys, right? Many of which had criminal histories, some of which I know for a fact are incarcerated right now. But I'm realizing right now this is almost sort of a rehashing of one of my earlier videos where I talked about some of the most violent shows I've been to, and you know, just like you maybe, I've been to hundreds over the years. Underground shows, mid-level, arena level, stadium level, all that. Including 2 I'll never forget as far as being like, holy shit, I could die right now level violent. The first was the Blood for Blood reunion show downstairs at the Middle East in Cambridge during Diecast set. And no surprise, it was during a breakdown in the song Disrepair. Holy mother of God, the breakdown in that song, dude, it's the most violent sounding breakdown ever written. I said it. It should be almost illegal. But I remember these big fucking animals out of their minds, just insane, going absolutely ham. And I'm like, God help me, because if all 140 pounds of me gets pushed into that, I am fucking dead. And the other was 100 Demons at the Palladium. In the Eyes of the Lord had just come out not long before that, and they were out there on tour with All Out War and Death Threat, Eternal Suffering, and Dying Fetus. And holy shit, again, even the cop inside was scared. I still laugh to this day because during Death Threat set, Aaron the singer was like, "Hey, don't be afraid of the big guys, they're all pussies." Pretty funny. But quite similarly, go back to that first terror show on the East Coast that they flew in for, and it was a very similar scene. Now, they hadn't been a band for too long yet, and most people only knew them because of Scott and Buried Alive beforehand. And both Terror and Buried Alive weren't exactly categorized as a tough guy hardcore band, but their music was still pretty fucking brutal. So you had kids doing the job of the tough guys like they do for Hatebreed or Death Threat or something, and man, Jesus Christ, just listen to that lead single they had off their debut, Lowest of the Low. I mean, right out of the gate, they waste no time in telling the listener, you are fucked. And people acted accordingly, man. It was as if everybody, even though straight edge was a big thing back then, it was as if everybody was on the most potent grab of coke you could find. So there was definitely a very distinguishable mood or behavior exhibited by the pitters according to certain styles and bands. That's gonna be obvious because, I mean, hell, just listen to the band, you know? You'd always have the way more brute, heavy-handed violence for the tough guy bands that would really break down Latin, and then you'd have a much less organized sort of chaos if a band was faster or grindier. Oh, here's one for you though, this is hilarious, and it's proof of my claim. Take bands that would blend both styles. I can remember one show in particular, my friend Nate, who sang at the time for a band called Deadwater Drowning. Nate, he's sung for a million bands, but perhaps the most known, anybody remember Through the Eyes of the Dead, and then Fit for an Autopsy was another one. But okay, he's playing a show with Deadwater Drowning, and I'm there with my buddy Brando. Rest in peace, Brando. But I think there were a couple also, like, you know, tough guy bands in the bill. But Deadwater had plenty of breakdowns, right? They were primarily grind, but they had breakdowns. So the funniest thing I'd ever seen at a show, the tough guys, like the real pit bosses, they'd literally be crouched down on the ground, alright? Crouched down like they were on the sidelines taking a breather between plays or something. But as soon as the music music stopped and it'd be a lone guitar playing a breakdown riff, like right before the drums would come in to accompany and start all the shit off, these guys then rose up like, oh, okay, well, here we go, time to mosh. And bam, man, that breakdown would kick in and there they were, just fucking everything up and going crazy. The breakdown stops and they'd go back to the grind, they went back down to the floor. Insane, man. So I mean, I don't know, maybe it's not fair for me to conclude that metal and hardcore shows aren't as violent as they used to be, because truthfully, I've really only been to legacy shows the last bunch of years, and I don't keep up with the kind of metal that's in right now. The fuck are some of those bands called? Like Periphery or Slaughter to Prevail or something? Like, there's just stuff's not my thing. So for all I know, these sorts of shows could be violent as hell. I don't know. But I'm just going by what really opened my eyes the last time I saw Hatebreed. And yes, people were moshing, but they weren't nearly the level of dickhead you saw back in the day. So my opinion on that, my verdict, fucking good, man. I think that's a good thing. Like, it's fucking music, dude. What reason should there ever be to purposely want to fuck other people up and start fights and shit? I mean, yeah, I know it's metal and metal sounds aggressive, and of course fights are gonna happen as a result of somebody's, quick reaction to an accidental fist or an elbow or something. But by and large, why should anybody have to feel fucking scared to go to a show to see a band they like, because they gotta worry about being a target or something simply for being there in the first place, man. Fuck all that shit, thank fucking God that shit seems to be sort of over with. And yeah, you can say, hell, I'll quote Aaron from Death Threat, alright, Brotherhood off the first album, Last Days. Yeah, maybe this is the answer. It's a brutal one, but unfortunately, maybe this is the answer. Don't wanna get hit, don't stand in the front. Cry when you do, you're nothing but a... That's censored in case anybody in my family sees this. It's the C word. But alright, you goddamn psychos, maniacs, and lunatics, that's what the hell I got to say. Yes, I don't think metal's as dangerous anymore as it used to be, and I'm happy about that. And that's not even an age thing, man. I would have told you the same shit like 20 years ago. Weigh in, please, if you like. If you want to tell me I'm a pussy or something, hey, talk a shit. I'll listen. But alright, metalheads, if you did like this video, cool, man, maybe you can give it a thumbs up. Or if you just like hearing somebody bullshit about heavy metal, then mosh your ass right into that subscribe button. And we'll see you next time on Concrete Spew. But until then, stay crazy, my friends.